This presentation poses the question, why use Softcon? Why use Softcon products? The presentation is aimed at the end users, those who are going to own and use the system. Firstly, a short introduction to Softcon. Yes, we've been around since 1983, headquarters in Pretoria and a branch in Cape Town. We have more than 70,000 control panels installed in more than 5,000 sites and yes, in many countries. So who uses Softcon systems? Well, anybody. Big systems, small systems, all of them. And here is a list of some of the biggest sites that Softcon systems are installed. And just to single out one or two, the Department of Justice in South Africa, all courts in this country controlled by Softcon systems. And showing these two refineries, they have specialized interlinking to scanning, searching, and X-ray systems. So what does Softcon do? Well, Softcon is a manufacturer of building management systems. Yes, systems that manage buildings. So it's electronic units that electronically monitor and control whatever in houses, offices, factories, farms, etc. So building management systems. Why Softcon? Well, Softcon does a variety of building management functions all in one integrated system that can do multiple building management system functions. Just as an example, when you close a security gate, the access control readers are disabled, intrusion application goes into the sleep mode, the pool pump goes off, downstairs underfloor heating and geyser goes off, security lights go on, elevator goes to the top floor, the coffee machine rinses. So why not Softcon? This is just an example. You're probably never going to do this, but this is all possible if you have a Softcon system. So let's look at a basic access control system. There are systems out there where the reader controls the portal. So the lock is controlled by the reader itself, and it probably looks something like this. You have a server where all your setups and your databases are kept, and it's connected via TCP or some means to a reader, for example, a fingerprint reader. The reader controls the lock. Let's add another reader controlling a lock, and yes, separate installation. You could have a reader on each side of a portal, of a door, controlling the same lock. So if you're using a controller controlled latches, so this is what Softcon suggests you do, we will see soon. So the controller controls the latch, the lock. For completeness, compared to the other system, let's add another controller controlling a door, two readers controlling the same lock. There is shorter, simpler ways of reducing your installation costs, for example, by interconnecting these two controllers. Immediately we have an advantage that we could use any kind of reader. As opposed to the system on the left, you'll have to use the same kind of reader throughout. So we could have some doors using card readers, token readers, barcode readers. We could have vehicle tags, long range readers, or remotes, just the normal remote that you push to open the door, the gates. You could use clip, in other words, you just phone a number and the gate automatically opens, or use a mobile. You go and present your mobile to a reader and the door will open. You could use pin alone. You could have pin and readers integrated into a lock. So what are the disadvantages of the system on the left? The lock is controlled from the unsecure side of the portal. In other words, it's simple. Break open the lock or hook the reader, lift out the reader, and you can open the lock. So not secure. As opposed to the controller controlling the lock. This you install on the secure side of the door. So you don't have that tamper problem. Anti-passback. Now anti-passback, anti-timeback is that you can't let multiple people through by the same person. The problem here is that the server has to do all the control. These readers are all totally independent of one another, so the server has to say, no, you've gone in at reader number 1, you can't go to reader number 2 anymore. Problem being, if your server is off or the communication is down, this does not work. Where if the controller is doing it, this is controlled locally by the controller. The server could be off, the comms could be down. The controller will automatically disallow you if so set up. And yes, you can have 8 readers on a controller. So interlinking these 8 readers doing this anti-passback, anti-timeback control, and less data flowing up to the server. The system on the left, there's no portal sensor. So the portal sensor, yes, you can have that at the controller. So what does this give you extra? It'll give you illegally opened. Now, if you're controlling a door, if you're serious about access control, surely you will want to know that the door's been opened illegally, or that it's been left open too long. Why have a door and they just put a weight in front of it and the doors, you don't have security. And then there's also, you did not open the door. For example, you badged your card or you put your finger down and, oh, I forgot something in my car. You don't go through. Now, we think you're inside, but you're not. So the door did not open, we did not let you through, so we still know you're outside. There's no reader enable on the system on the left. Whereas with a controller based, you can have a reader enable. For example, a loop for the car, so the reader will only work when there is a vehicle on the loop. And an interlock, so you have 2 doors, both doors are not allowed to be opened at the same time. This you can't do on the left. The controller can do this interlock, and also a man trap, that's a booth, and also you can see somebody's inside and then force it to go through. The open door one must close, you are inside, then only open the next door. And yes, you could just simply have a switch to flip the switch and the reader doesn't work anymore. There's no exit request on the system on the left. Yes, of course you could have a push button that just breaks the line and opens the door, but then you do not have any control or log of this event. Where with a controller based, you can connect the exit request device, example the push button. We are recording this and we know that the door's been opened. Also, it gives you further advantages like having one reader inside a man trap, so reducing your costs. So you push the button, the first door opens, you go inside, you put your finger down, and then the next door opens. Half the cost. You could also do single door man traps. It's a sliding door with, again, one reader. The system on the left, there's no additional local control, where if you do use a controller, there's almost endless that you can do. You could control additional lights and sirens. For example, if you open the door illegally, a siren could go off. Or if you do unlock the door, automatically the lights are switched on, etc., etc. You don't have to do this. It's all there, all integrated into the one system, done locally. And of course, there are time groups on anything. When must the reader be used? When are we automatically unlocking a door? When are things allowed to happen? And you can have inputs linked to inputs linked to outputs. So only on certain conditions can inputs be monitored or outputs being controlled and controlled automatically because of another input. These are all additional options. You don't have to use it, but it is there. Also the outputs linked to inputs, outputs linked to other outputs. For example, if you open this door automatically, the lights get switched on. If one output, if the siren goes on, switch on all the lights. And additional, you could send SMSs on certain conditions, on certain happenings or certain non-happenings. We also can supervise all the cables. So tamper, a cable has been cut or it's been short-circuited. Let's expand on readers and cards connected to Softcon controllers. One controller can accommodate up to 8 readers. And yes, it could be card readers, tag readers. The COS readers, those are, your cell mobile. You present your mobile to the reader and it'll unlock the door if you're allowed to go in. We could use remotes that are link to you. We identify you when you push the remote and open the gate or the garage door, whatever it is. And clip is you phone a number on speed dial, you phone a number, and yes, we recognize this cell number and we open the portal if you're allowed to go in. And this costs nothing. We do not answer the call, so it's a free call. You could have fingerprint, card, PIN combinations, or you could have the biometric touchless. That's the face, recognizes your face, and yes, you're allowed to go in or not. Or the wave, you simply swipe you wave your hand through the reader, and if you're allowed to go in, we will open the portal. You could have just PIN or PIN with card, or the PIN reader or the card reader, either or, integrated into a lock. This is ideal for hotels, guest houses, or wherever you need to send somebody a PIN to gain access. It could be one time off or for a certain period of time. We could have barcode scanners as a reader, scanning driver's licenses or whatever. I'll expand now. And you could have a breathalyzer in the local controller, breathalyzer where we randomly do a breathalyzer or a random search. We have multiple types of searches within the controller, and obviously you can have appropriate lights and sirens if you pass or fail. So cards, we're saying any card. That includes a driver's license, your ID card, an asset. You could link an asset to a card. And yes, the local controller has up to 125,000 tags, profiles in the local database. And one tag or one person can be linked to another one. So I have a host, I can only go where he is, I can only follow him, I link to him. And you can link an asset to a card, and this is all logged together, that we know where the asset is, who has the asset. And we could have multiple badge settings. In other words, for example, in high security areas, you need to badge 3 cards before we open the portal. Clarify inputs and outputs. What is an input? An input is something that is monitored. And yes, a controller, Softcon controller, can have 16, can be expanded to 250. So what are typical inputs? For access control, we're looking at things like door sensors, the door's open, the door's closed, push buttons, vehicle detect, loops and beams. We think intrusion, it would be things like panic buttons, infrared beams, passives, the little detectors you see in rooms, electric fence alarms. If we're thinking temperature, it is something that's too hot, it's too cold, or what is the value of the temperature, example, geysers, air conditioning. Levels, monitoring a level of your pool, the level water in a tray, your geyser tray, etc. Smoke sensors, etc., etc. So it is anything that is connected to a controller, things that we are monitoring. It could be anything. Outputs, what are outputs? These are devices that we control on or off. And yes, Softcon controller has 10, can be expanded to 128 per controller. Typically, access control, it's locks, it's barriers, it's gates, etc. For intrusion, things like sirens, lights, beepers. Yes, lights could be switched on by anything. Temperature, we need to increase or decrease the temperature. For example, your aircon, the geyser. Level up or down, I want to fill the pool, I want to empty something, open a valve, etc. Irrigation, on off, etc., etc. So, how does this lot all interlink? Well, execution is, first of all, you can set times. When are we monitoring inputs? When are we controlling outputs automatically? Or certain times of day, weekends, holidays, etc. And inputs can be enabled by other inputs, by other outputs, by counters, by modes. Intrusion is in a certain mode, and only then are certain inputs monitored, for example. Outputs can be controlled by readers, by other outputs, by other inputs. As a result of counters, we can switch things on or off. Any other combination of anything, etc. Let me recap what a general system looks like. There is always a top end, some computer that you do setups with, that you get events reported to. And there are systems out there where it is just a simple reader that does output linked to the top, and some of them have inputs, very limited, and of course there are other controllers out there with limited functions. If you take a Softcon controller though, you have multiple readers and multiple options, multiple inputs, multiple outputs, and yes, a mixture of all this linked to real-time, timeouts, and counters. Anything is possible. You don't have to do it, but you can expand to it today or tomorrow as required. So just to complete this presentation, basically anything is possible. And if you go to the website, there's documents that tell you how to connect and the specification of every product, and also there's presentations to expand on more details of the Softcon systems. To end the presentation, let's ask the question again, why Softcon? I think you know the answer. So if you want effective building management and need secure access control, the question should rather be, how can you not use Softcon? Please call us for help designing your system, looking at your system. We will help you find an installer that can install a decent system. Thank you.